Hey there, Erica from Feel Your Core here. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you like how we roll, please hit that like button right now. And while you're at it, go ahead and press that subscribe button too. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate you. These two actions help others find us so we can continue to educate and inspire through movement. So we're going to get right in here today, part 1 of 4. We're going to start with breathing and into some pelvic rocks. So as you can see with this little visual here, I want you to think of your pelvis like a bowl sitting on a counter. And then we're going to just superimpose a clock like sitting on top of the bowl. Okay. So the pelvic rock is this first part is tipping your bowl towards 12 and then tipping your bowl towards 6, right? So this is something we've done together before, but if you're new to it, think about that 12 o'clock is like tipping your bowl so you're drinking the last bit of milk out of it, and then tipping that bowl towards 6, you're tipping it the other way, then we bring it back to center. So as you can see here, I'm using my breath and flowing with this movement. As I exhale, I draw my abdominals in, and as I inhale, you can see how the body tips the other way. So now instead of going 12 to 6, we're going to go 3 and 9. So this one might be a little bit more tricky. So just take your time with it. You can see even here on my body, it's incredibly subtle, right? So my knees aren't shifting anywhere, right? I'm, thinking about lifting my bowl like from the 3 o'clock and tipping it towards 6, and then from the 6, tipping it towards 3. Sorry, I said 6. I meant 9. 3 to 9 and 9 to 6 on that clock, right? And it's very small. But you just want to feel this rhythm. The first couple times I tried this, it was very difficult. I hardly moved at all. So if that's your case, keep trying. And then next, you'll see I take it into a circle. So basically, I'm hitting the 6, 9, 12, 3 on my clock, smoothing it out to make a little circle, okay? And then I do this a couple times one way. I think I did about 6 one way, and then I do it about 6 the other way. The key here is when you switch the direction, don't think about it, just do it. Because the more you think about it, the harder it is. So right now, I'm just breathing. So finishing those out. And then next exercise we're going to go into is the supine marching. So I'm bringing my legs up into what we often call tabletop, but I am placing my knees maybe a little bit forward over my hip crease as opposed just right over like where my femur, my thigh bone, inserts right into my hip, okay? As long as you can do that and keep the back of the sacrum, the flat part of the pelvis nice and flat and steady, then that's a great place. So again, I start with my breathing and then I start moving. So again, my tempo isn't super fast here. I am concentrating so hard right now on thinking about the back of my pelvis and making sure that I can feel it even from side to side and keep feeling that flat part of the pelvis. This does not mean that, I am flattening my spine. My spine is in a place where with abdominal engagement, I'm able to get my pelvis to feel flat, the back of my pelvis to feel flat. And from here, I'm just lowering one leg at a time. I'm tapping my heel. If lowering the leg down, keeping that knee at a 90-degree angle and tapping that heel down makes you kind of come out of this secure, safe position through the spine, then just don't tap the heel down. Just move your thigh bone in a range of motion that allows you to stay engaged in your abdominals, okay, and allows you to keep breathing through the movement, all right? And so again, I'm thinking about as I exhale, drawing my abs in to support the low back. Okay. And as I inhale, I'm thinking about the widening of my sacrum so I don't start overarching it. Doing a little bit of stretching here, a little rocking, just because it feels good. I'm just going with the flow here. You're getting to see what I do when I, do my workout. So next up, I'm in all fours. So I'm going into quadruped, so all fours, hands and knees, and femur circles. So what I'm doing is I'm thinking about the movement of my thigh bone. I pull it up, I circle it around, I chamber it home, I press it back, I circle it around the other way to chamber it back home. So basically, I'm doing half of a circle starting forward, and then I finish the circle going back around to the front. Again, I'm going to do about 12 reps here. So this is still an abdominal exercise because I'm thinking about pulling my abdominals away from the floor. Again, that's going to help support my low back. I'm also thinking about pushing the floor away and staying strong through my arms as I'm doing this exercise. Since I am, once the leg starts going, on 2 arms and 1 leg, I'm thinking about this diagonal piece from, in this frame, it's my right shoulder to my left hip. That's my stability line, that diagonal line. And then, of course, my left arm is there too. That is helping me keep stable. But to stay balanced, there's a lot of thought here. There's a lot of abdominal work to stay in that diagonal line. I'm sitting back here, nice little stretch before I go to the other side. I'm resetting, right? I'm just taking a deep breath. I'm getting my, mind right here so I can do the other side. I'm turning so you can see this other side, and same thing, right? So I start these circles with the thigh bone. So notice how small my circle is. So it's almost as if I had a Sharpie on my knee, so I could draw, the circle would be drawn on the ground. And so for me, I know that I have to stay in this smaller range of motion for my body right now, because if I kicked that femur back anymore, I'd start to go into my low back extensors. And remember, I want to keep using my abdominals to keep my back nice and stable. And I'm just trying to use my femur, that big thigh bone, in the hip socket, as a little spoon, right? As it's stirring the soup, right? If we go back to that, oh, my pelvis is a bowl thing, and my thigh bone is just in there, and it's stirring one way, and then it's stirring the other way. So, these are considered controlled articular rotations. It's joint maintenance. It makes your joints feel good. We're prepping the joints for the work that we're going to ask it to do. All right. So again, I'm pressing myself away from the floor with the upper body. So my triceps and my chest are getting a little bit here. So are my shoulders. I'm sitting back, nice little stretch and reset. Next, we're going into side lying shoulder, external and internal rotation. So notice this setup. My shoulders are square to you. My hips are square to you. I'm putting my elbow into my waist to show you that's where it rests. If you aren't able to get your elbow to rest there, you can put a towel or something there so it can rest. And then notice I have that 90-degree angle at the elbow, and then my wrist is stacked. No bending the wrist here. So what I'm starting with is internal rotation. So I have this, it's a 2-pound dumbbell. I really wouldn't go any heavier than this if you're starting this for the first time. And so what you see me doing is I'm rotating my upper arm bone, my humerus, internally to bring that forearm down to that kind of parallel position. And you'll see in my ellipse here, you'll see me counting. 1, because I always lose count, but 2, because I want you to understand the tempo of this exercise, okay? So what's happening is I'm saying 3, 2, 1, lift, okay? 3, 2, 1, I think that's 10. 3, 2, 1, and lift. All right. So I'm using that tempo to control the rotation down, and then I come back to my start position. So now for external rotation, my start position starts at that parallel, and now I'm rotating that upper arm bone to bring me to the top. Okay. So again, I've got a tempo 3, 2, 1, 3, maybe 3, 2, 1. There. Yeah. And so you see how I do a little bit of pause at the top. All right. You're going to see me start rolling my eyes at myself. That is because this is getting incredibly difficult. And then when I realize that I'm rolling my eyes at myself, then I start to laugh at myself, which I do often. I highly recommend it. I try not to take myself too seriously here. My shoulder is burning, you guys. Again, 2-pound weight. I've been doing this exercise for years. And if you're just really in the mind body piece of being in the stabilizing muscles of the shoulders, you're on fire, right? So I took a little break there, a little tap out. All right. Other side. All right. So again, showing you 90-degree at that elbow. And then my wrist is lined up with the elbow. All right. And then now here we go. Again, I'm giving you that tempo. This is the internal rotation point. So the thing, again, I'm smiling already because it already burns. All right. And it already burns because remember that shoulder was propping up my head on the other side. All right. So a couple of, cues of the body here, right? Shoulders are square to the front. Hips are squared to the front. Okay. And I would highly encourage this tempo count with me as I work through this exercise. Okay. again, we're working teeny tiny muscles of the shoulder, okay? And so they're gonna wear out real quick. And one of the reasons I love this exercise is because, when we're just going to overhead presses or front raises, side raises, we kind of just bypass those stabilizing muscles and we go right to the prime mover. That's why this type of exercise, it is so humbling. It's so humbling, okay? So stick with it. You want to feel the rotation of the upper arm bone. You see me keep checking on that dumbbell arm, because I want to make sure I'm not bending at my wrist as I get tired and pulling from my wrist. I want to make sure I'm still rotating from the upper arm bone. So feel free to check on that. My palm is forward the whole time too. So if you've got some tightness in the forearm, really work on trying to make sure that palm is facing forward as you're doing this exercise. Okay. I'm getting to the end here. Okay. I believe that I did lose count, which is why I start laughing at myself. I lost count because this burns so much. Fire, fire, fire. If you need to take a break, take a break. Notice again that count is like, I'm not just dropping, but I did just drop it there because I'm like, it's over. We're done. Okay. Little nap. All right. Just kidding. We're not doing a nap. We're getting up. We got other stuff to do. Next up, heel raises. All right. So heel raises. What you see me here, I'm in parallel. Okay. And then the metatarsal. So those are the balls of my feet are on this little, this is called a standing foot bar. But if you have a 2x4, you can use this. If you have a step anywhere in your house, apartment, dwelling, you can do this. Make sure you're on the balls of the feet. Okay. Metatarsals, the bones behind the toes. All right. So you're here. And what I'm thinking about as I'm doing this, I use like a little elevation so that my heels can get below the level of the floor. So I really know I'm getting a stretch. And so I'm going up to the balls of my feet. I'm trying to make sure that I don't hyperextend into the front of my ankle and just like kind of bow out my ankles. Notice how everything stays in a really nice line here. When I lower my heels, I'm thinking about reaching the inside line of my heels to the floor. Okay. So that I don't bow out onto the outside edges of my feet. I typically kind of hang out on the outside edges of my feet. So I'm really focusing as doing this, that I'm not doing that. So this next set of 10 or 12, I am externally rotating my thigh bones and my hip sockets so that, I follow that line down and it looks like a V, but there's some space between my feet. Okay. So same thing here. I'm lifting up again, only as high. I'm lifting up only as high as I can control the movement with flow, and that I stay on the metatarsals, all 5 of them. Okay. So big toe metatarsal all the way to pinky toe metatarsal, so that I'm using that whole line to lift and then reaching the inside line of my heel down to lower. Okay. All right. So the last bit, we're going to go internally rotated. So this just works, this is kind of the different sides of the muscle here. So now from the thigh bone, so this is not coming from my knee or feet, from my thigh bone, I rotate in. You'll notice I stepped a little bit wider for me so that I can get the internal rotation I want. I'm doing the same thing. All 5 metatarsals of each foot, so all 10 metatarsals really on your stair, your floor, what have you. And again, nice controlled lift together, lower together. I want to make sure I call it the 4 corners of my feet. So that big toe mound, that's the metatarsal, little toe mound, inner heel and outer heel. I want them all feeling, the impact, right, of the stair and then of the floor when I touch down. So nobody's bowed out, nobody's bowed in. You will definitely be feeling this warmth, not only all the way up your calf, but I feel it all the way up into where my butt and my hamstring meet. And then now, after all of that prep, we're getting into a compound exercise. And so we've got your squat curl press. I love this exercise as like my first exercise of, my strength training with, weights in my hands or whatever, of an exercise, because I'm doing a compound exercise, which means I'm squatting, I'm curling, and I'm pressing. I'm not just squatting. I'm not just standing there curling. I'm not just standing there pressing. I'm putting it all together. Works big muscle groups, gets the heart rate involved, especially taking those arms overhead. Notice I have a very light weight here because this is the first set of this exercise. And so I don't want to feel any restriction here. I just want to be able to feel like I can flow. Next, I come down to the mat and I'm doing push-ups. So this is a modified push-up. So I'm on my knee and I'm doing negatives for the first 6. Okay. So what that means is I control my descent down, but what I'm really focusing on is the push up. push up, and I don't let myself fall. I control it back down. But boom, that's a concentric portion that I'm really working on. Okay. And boom, there's my power move. And I just control myself back down. So you can see that there's a break in between those, right? I am a little bit lordotic or archy in my low back. So I try to kind of reset that here as I go into my final 6, which is going to be like a continuous flow push up, right? So you can see I put my toes down because that just feels better for me. And you can see there's not that stop. I'm working on the way down and I'm working on the way up. Definitely here for me, I could use a little bit more abdominal engagement to lengthen out my low back a bit, because I can tell for my body that that's a little archy, and you can see my fatigue coming in. I do a little stretch here, child's pose, reach to each side because it feels great. Clasping my hands behind my back, showing you that my palms are touching, pulling my shoulder blades together. You can see I'm doing a couple of shoulder circles, taking my head to one side and the other because that just feels really good after that exercise. So last exercise here is our hip hinge to a bent over row. Okay, so again, a compound exercise, hip hinge or RDL, right? And then I come up and I hip hinge, I give a row, and then I pull those hips forward, right? So here's the hip hinge, there's my row. That's what makes it compound. We're doing more than one things, right? So I'm getting glutes, hamstrings, low abs with that low back and abs with that hip hinge. And then I'm getting my biceps and I'm getting the backs of my shoulders and I'm getting this whole back line muscles with that row, right? So a lot of things going on. All right. And so again, it's a flow, but there's a precision with my flow. This is an exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. So there's my breath flow. Okay. And as I am working through this exercise, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, you can just do the one set. Cool. You can do more than one set. Try this maybe a couple times a week. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.